Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Love Mom podcast. If this is the first time you're joining us, please remember to like and subscribe so that you can see all of our future episodes and go back and watch some of the ones that you may have missed. I'm Amy.
And I'm Casey. We're glad that you're here with us this week.
So, this week we have another super fun topic for you. We're going to be talking about grief. Now, there's a couple of things about grief that I want to start out saying, which is that sometimes what people are feeling on the inside does not match what they're saying and what their face shows on the outside. It's really important to remember that people are walking a walk that you may not know about, so keep that in mind. The other reason is that not everything can be awful. We're not here to just bring everybody down to talk about how sad we all are. We're here to talk about what we can do to help each other move on from grief, to deal with grief, and to get a community together so that we can focus on some positive aspects and move forward and heal together.
Absolutely. As I was putting this together, I thought about sending our producer a picture of myself, what I looked like yesterday. And it is not at all what I look like right now. I tell people all the time that women, especially, we put a mask on. So you hit that right on the head when you said what we look like on the outside is oftentimes not what we're feeling on the inside or what we're going through, because we're conditioned, or we are trained, or feel like, especially as moms, as women, that we have to put on the mask and we have to put on this armor to be perfect or be on point all the time. And I think grief is, I wrote a few things out, and grief is heavy, and grief is messy, and it's unpredictable. It can feel like the loneliest place in the world, whether you're processing the loss of something that happened yesterday or carrying something that you've lived with for years. There's no right or wrong way to hurt or to process grief. It's not linear. It's different for everybody. There's no timeline for healing. Too often we carry the weight in silence, and we expect everyone around us to grieve the exact same way that we do. Here in this space, in the Love Mom podcast, we don't want anyone to pretend that they're okay. It's okay to not be okay sometimes. It's okay to not go through grief like myself or like Amy, and no one should tell you how to feel or how to deal with it. Whether grief looks like tears or talking about it or being silent, sometimes it's just getting through the next task, and any of that is valid. You are not broken, and you're never alone. Just take a deep breath and let's navigate this together.
Absolutely. One thing that you touched on is how there's no timeline for grief. I think we've been so conditioned by work and our employers. Child dies, well, you should be over it in 3 weeks. So we're going to see you back in 3 weeks and you should be functioning in 3 weeks. So your parent dies, that's a week's worth of grieving. So we're going to see you on week number 2. Come on back and get right back in the swing of things. And it's just so unfair that, I mean, I understand businesses have to have some kind of guideline, but that really does not reflect the actual grieving process. And a lot of times it doesn't even reflect how quickly you can even get back into society. Because I guarantee in 2 weeks or 3 weeks after my son died, I was nowhere near ready to talk to clients and be around other people and
Yeah.
be in work meetings and not have an absolute breakdown. So
100%.
I think it's just a really tough road to navigate there.
If anyone has followed along with our journey, our podcast, they know that my mom passed away unexpectedly in April, and I'm still not past the denial phase of grief. There are 5 phases, and I may tip my toe in the anger phase on some days, but I still wake up every day and want to text her. I still expect to get
Right.
those silly emojis from her. I still, sometimes more so yesterday than even the day that it happened, am very sad.
I think the denial stage gets overlooked so often. You feel like you deny it, and an hour later, you've already accepted that it happened. And no, for me,
Yeah,
that's not true. For even now, you still have those moments where I used to sleep on our stairs that looked out into our front to our driveway, just in case his car pulled in. And it took a very long time not to sit on those stairs at night while everybody slept to move to the couch, which was 5 feet from the door. And it was only in the last year or so where I really regularly even made it up to bed because I still wanted to be, just in case we were wrong.
available.
Even I saw the body
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I have his remains sitting in my living room. There's still that little bit of you that
that
just doesn't want to accept it at all.
that is another piece of it, and I think that my sister and I are really, really, really struggling as much as we did that first day, that first week, because I think I shared this before. My mom donated her body to science. So she didn't want a funeral. She didn't want a service of any kind. And she thought that if you didn't see her while she was alive, don't put her on display afterward. So, with the whole donation process, we said our goodbyes at the hospital. So, when we walked out of the hospital that day, that was it. Then they took her away to somewhere. We don't really know where. And from April until about 10 days ago, she was gone. We got an email that said, "Thank you, blah, blah, blah. She helped a lot of people. Be expecting a delivery that you'll have to sign for, and your mom will be home." The next day, my sister received that delivery. So my mom is still in a box. Neither one of us can bring ourselves to open that box. So I think that has brought up some more feelings and taken us back to where we were.
Right. I still have Evan's clothes in a bag downstairs in our laundry room, and I can't throw them away. I can't wash them. I can't do anything with them. They just sit on a shelf for they've been there for 3.5 years, just his t-shirt and
Yeah.
pants and socks with the Godfather movie motif on them are just sitting there every time I go downstairs in the laundry room, and I'm not ready to move that bag yet.
Yeah, I get it. I have the bag of clothes that my mom wore to the hospital that morning that we expected to take her home in after her
Mhm.
procedure, and it still smells like her. I pray it never doesn't smell like her. I don't know. The first stage is denial and shock, and I know that that's where I'm still at. As I said, I tipped my toe in the second stage of anger, and I'm quite honestly pissed off at God. I'm pissed off at the hospital because there were errors made. We knew that it was risky going in, but in addition to that, there were errors made and there was a lot of dishonesty. So instead of just being honest with us and forthcoming, that's not the route that they took. So I'm mad about that. And I have a few times asked God, she's been gone long enough. Her curfew is over, send her home because she's needed here. And then the next stage is depression, and I definitely have not gotten out of that. And to be totally transparent, I'm on 2 or 3 medications for that and having panic attacks too, so I'm on a medication for that. My first outing, I'll share a quick story. My first outing after it happened was about, I can't remember how many days. And I went to the grocery store, a simple trip to the grocery store. Um, it's very likely that I hadn't showered because that seems to be a very tough task for me. When we record our podcast, that's a shower day for me. So that's a
Yeah,
plus, but just simple tasks like that are a challenge. And I know that for people who haven't been through it, that they're probably thinking that's
that
pretty
you, but
nasty, but getting out of bed and brushing my teeth is a challenge
yeah,
most days.
absolutely.
But I went to the grocery store, had a list because I wasn't able to stay very well focused. And I walked in, and the first thing I saw as I was walking in with my cart was someone that had a shirt on, and the back of the shirt said, "I love you more." I immediately couldn't breathe and had chest pain. I had to just leave my cart, walk back outside. I called my husband. I couldn't even drive because that was something that my mom had started a few years ago when we would say, "I love you" at the end of a phone call or leaving her house. She would always say really fast, "I love you more." The end, I win, and then like stop the conversation. And that was just always our thing. And seeing that t-shirt, I believe in signs like that. I believe in those type of things. So I knew that it was my mom sending me a message. Some people don't believe in that stuff. Some people might just be thinking that's a t-shirt. Why did you think that those two things? But I know that it was my mom telling me one more time that she loved me. It happens to my sister a lot with songs in the car, songs between that only her and my mom would understand. And I had a patient in the hospital just recently that had my mom's married name and her maiden name was this person's name. And it was just very strange. So just little things like that. Last week, I was having the worst nightmare. I've had nightmares ever since she died. And in this nightmare, I was on the ground just screaming, 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 screaming for my mom. And usually when that happens, I start talking in my sleep and my husband will wake me up. This night, I thought that's what was happening. I felt something touch my leg like he does when he's trying to wake me up. And I felt it shake my leg. And I sat up in the bed. My husband was rolled over on the other side, sound asleep. And I'm like, something just touched me. And I woke him up and I'm like, "Did you just touch me?" He was like, "No, I'm asleep." So something came in there that night. It was not scary. It was comforting because whatever was happening in that dream, and I was yelling out for my mom. So there have been a few encounters since she left that have brought her back around. Butterflies was a thing. My sister was at the pool with my niece And she said the entire time she was at the pool, this butterfly stayed attached to her, never went anywhere, was just attached to her. So I just want her to come back. God needs to send her back, and she needs to finish taking care of what needs to be taken care of here because we're not done with her yet. I don't know that I'll ever make it through these 5 stages and get to the acceptance part. I
Same. Yeah. I ride 2 horses here, anger and depression. I have a lot of anger. He disappeared in September and was gone until May, so I grieved from September to May and then found out that they found him in an alley, and then I grieved again over his death, so it had already been a harrowing few months,
yeah,
and then kicks in the new grief. And
yeah,
I'm still stuck on anger because there's so many people that I'm angry at. I am angry at God still. I've told him that a lot, and he's well aware of it, I'm sure. We're working it out. I was absolutely agoraphobic for a very long time. I didn't wanna leave because I might miss him
I
coming back. What if he
I
comes back? And definitely
can relate to that so
yeah,
much, but that impacts my relationship with my husband because he likes to do stuff. Like, I can't bring myself to get up and go to church. I don't want to go to dinner. When the grandkids are here, he wants to go do stuff, and I'm like, "I just
right,
can't." And it's in my mind, I may want to, but it just the energy to have to
right,
put forth to do it
right.
is
Yeah, I say,
it's
yeah, thinking
exhausting,
about
and
getting a shower and getting clothes on and just that. That sounds so elementary. That is just basic hygiene, and that is just too much. I panic whenever anybody
I
said, "Hey, I'm gonna
percent
stop by," and I'm like, "Oh gosh, please don't stop by because I'm a disaster, and if you see me looking like a
yeah,
disaster, then there's gonna be a problem because 'cause you're gonna, tell my husband and my parents that
exactly.
I'm a mess and that I need to they need to
Exactly.
go check on me, and I don't want that either. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but it
It
is
yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah, it's t it's t
yeah. Grief is defined as a natural, multifaceted emotional response to a significant loss. So, I think most people think that or associate grief with a death. But grief can be so much more. It can be a breakup or a divorce. That's very challenging. Job loss or your declining health. I think that these are all things that people don't think
right.
about. Life situations, just in general.
It's not just the person that you're missing, it's the life that you had that you're missing out on that you
Empty
never
nest.
have, and that's the kicker right there, isn't just, "I miss my son, I wish he'd come back." It's the knowing and the knowledge that I'm never going to see him get married. When my other son
Yeah.
gets married, there'll always be that little shred of sadness in there that he's not standing up with his brother as his best man. There's not gonna be more
Absolutely.
Christmas stockings to fill. There's no more gingerbread houses, there's no more Thanksgiving dinners where we're all there. It's no longer
Yes.
families here, it's, well, those of us that are still here are here. It's that missing
Yeah.
and I think that goes the same way with anything, like a breakup, a job loss. It's the life that you wanted and the life that you were living, and it's been taken from you all of a sudden. And that absolutely
Yeah.
deserves some grieving.
Yeah. My husband and I had an event at his job today, and he's kind of a big deal at his job. So when you have things like these, I have to go with him. So we were talking about this in the car as we were going. I was reading over these notes with him, and he brought up a few other things. I said, "Do you have any thoughts on this or anything that you would add to it?" And he brought up empty nest syndrome
Right.
and It made me think about adult children. And when they're going through things, us as mothers, I think that we grieve that with them. If our children go through a divorce or our children are going through something like substance abuse or domestic violence situations or the loss of a job or any of those things, as they're grieving, we grieve that as well. So there's just so many things that fall under that category that are different than the loss of a family member. So people need to take that into consideration as well. And when those things happen, give yourself some time and give yourself some grace to work through that and feel those feelings. Some of the emotions or the areas that I guess fall under that, you're emotionally impacted, you're physically impacted. It could be intense sadness or anger, guilt. Guilt was a big one for me with my mother, especially because I lived a couple hours away from her, and I always thought that she was superwoman. So in my mind, I say it all the time, I never pictured a world without her. So let me pick up an extra shift. My mom was the hardest working woman that I knew because she had to raise two daughters by herself. So she instilled that in my sister and I. And work was always important. She instilled a very strong work ethic in us. So I would pick up extra shifts all the time. I would work myself too much and I would put off family things because of work. So I was of the mind there's always tomorrow, there's always next weekend. I'll go see mom then, or I'll do this then. So when she is no longer with me, I am overcome with guilt, to be quite honest, because I should have spent that time with her. So that's one message that I hope somebody hears and someone takes away from what we're talking about right now is one, the guilt is crippling. And I know people, therapists say you can't feel that way. Your mom knows that you loved her and all of the things that people try to say, the right things, but it doesn't change the fact that I have that feeling that I should have spent more time with her. You can never get time
Yeah.
back. So if anyone is listening, please, please, please don't waste time. Spend time with the people that you love and tell them that you love them and show them, be with them, and make memories.
I've asked for replays from God. I've asked for, can we just please go back in the timeline for 3 months? Can we go back to 6 months? Can we go back to September? Can we go back to this month, please? When I wake up in the morning, I just want to wake up and it's going to be September 21st and everything's going to be okay. And then I wake up and it's not. It's June 31st and that ship has sailed and I'm always disappointed for a very long time because I didn't wake up in a different timeline. I really honestly felt like I was in the Matrix, like I woke up in the wrong timeline. I actually got on a lot of the Matrix type Facebook pages. Am I in a different time zone? If I had some kind of time slip, am I in a different dimension of some kind? What is happening? This is not my life. And I actually went on those Facebook pages, and there are people that really legitimately believe that. And if you believe that, that's fine. That's your belief. Who am I to say? I do honestly feel like I'm out of time. I'm in the wrong place. And I still feel that way.
I ask myself oftentimes, how is this my life? How am I navigating this? I have no parents. My sister and I have each other, and that's it. And how How sad is that? It's only my sister and I mean, we have children, but there's nobody left. My sister and I are it. And that feels so lonely, so empty. I don't feel like I'm 35 like I am. I feel like a lonely little child that is curled up in a corner because they're all alone instead of a grown woman that should have life figured out.
And I can't imagine what it's like for young people to lose both parents as teenagers or as young adults and navigate their 20s and 30s without their parents. And I think that's one thing that keeps me on this planet is that my son's got one parent left, and that's me. And I've got to do what I've got to do to stay here, even though I would rather wake up and find Evan and give him another hug. I can't do Liam.
I
I can't let that happen to him. And I think that was my
Yeah,
big wake up call to actually do something about the depression and moving on and promoting a little healthier way of dealing with things. It was for his sake.
yeah. I definitely have battled depression and anxiety at different levels at different times of my life. Definitely in my 20s, it was much uglier. It was much darker. It was much more reckless. Now I think about who's gonna who's gonna be here to boss my kids around and make sure that they are okay. And then there's the extra layer of the three little
Right.
people. So I'm a lot less reckless, but I can't say that there haven't been dark thoughts since my mom left. Never would I act on them, but if anyone watching this is having dark thoughts, there is help. And we will post the numbers at the end of the podcast. If you are having any thoughts of harming yourself, please reach out and get help. Grief is hard and it's ugly. And just because it's hard right now, you can get through it. We're two people here that have suffered significant loss. And yes, it's hard. And yes, the days are difficult. But when you lean into each other and there are people that care, so don't feel like you have to act on those dark thoughts. There is light at the end. Um, and as Amy says, it can't be bad all the time.
Right. It's okay to laugh, and it's so strange to laugh after you've gone through something so horrible. I was telling Adam earlier today, I remember the first time that I laughed after Evan died. He died in May, and I laughed in June over something that my brother said. He was at my parents' house. He had come down because he said, I just need to lay eyes on you. That's our thing is that, if you're worried about somebody, you got to lay eyes on them. You got to be there in person, not on the phone. So he had come down just to lay eyes on me, and he said something, and I just laughed and laughed and laughed like it was funny. And I remember getting some strange looks like, Why are you laughing? And I remember clamming back up and thinking, I've got to put my death shroud back on. I've got to get my veil, my black veil and my dress and sink back into the background because
Yeah,
I'm not supposed to do that.
yeah.
And that was totally the wrong thing to think.
I broke
Direction.
down and bought this grief workbook, grief and healing journal workbook, and it talks about that in here, that it's okay to laugh. It doesn't mean that you're grieving any less. And it tells you to let the anger out and to write an angry letter. And some of the strategies that it has in here is like write a letter to yourself, write a final letter to that loved one. I did that. It was cathartic.
I didn't write a letter, but the first time I left the house in August, I went up to the lake house to stay with my brother, and my parents were coming up. And I talked to Evan the entire way up there. It was a 7-hour drive, and I talked out loud, just like I'm talking right now, for 7 straight hours to Evan. I told him what I was mad about. I told him how sad I was. I said, I didn't know if you were watching, but you've caused a whole lot of problems, and I'm mad still, and I'm mad at God, and I'm mad at you, mostly mad at you. And then I talked about happy things too, things that I remember about him and things that I missed. It was very helpful because at this point, I couldn't listen to music at all. No music. I mean, I'm talking not country, pop, 70s disco. It didn't
That's
matter.
interesting you say that because I find myself in my car all the time in silence. And my husband's like, what? I don't even realize it anymore. But
Music is designed to evoke some kind of emotion from you, whether it's sadness or happiness or good feelings. And when you listen to a song, it doesn't matter if it's bar hop and country music, it's evoking that joy and that carefree attitude. And that's not something that I could deal with in addition to the what I was already feeling. I couldn't heap anything
yeah,
else on. And I couldn't
yeah.
turn on sad songs because I was already in that sad place. I just couldn't process any other emotion than what I was feeling. And it was
I
one
feel like,
thing I
yeah,
was
like nervous system is already reached
right,
the max. Your emotions already
right.
maxed out that you can't take one more thing. Sitting in silence is
Yeah, it's
good.
it's
So, as we so often do on our podcast, near and dear to our heart, addiction, substance use, as I was reading and gathering information, grief and addiction are deeply intertwined. And I was thinking with my smart brain, that makes a lot of sense to me. People use substances just in general to numb themselves from whatever's going on. So, as we often do on the Love Mom podcast, we talk about addiction and substance use. So, as I was looking and doing a little research on this, um, the research suggests that addiction, substance use, and grief are very intertwined. And that makes sense to me. Substances are often used to numb the pain, your emotions. So why wouldn't it be used after a great loss? It went on to say that it makes you more vulnerable to the grief being more severe. So then you need more drugs, more alcohol to make it go away. And it just is that vicious circle. They call it a bidirectional cycle. Someone grieving might use the drugs or alcohol to escape the physical pain or psychological pain to avoid the grieving or just feeling altogether. Substances um, complicates things by disrupting the natural ability to process the emotions, leading to prolonged or unrelieved sorrow. So they never really go through those stages of grieving. And it complicates the grief. And then it goes into all the scientific stuff, activates the brain's reward center and biological stress. And the response to that is more substances because you're always kind of chasing that feeling to numb yourself. So that was interesting to me. When you're in recovery and you're no longer turning to substances to numb the feelings, and you're forcing yourself to feel those feelings, grief often resurfaces, and then the true feelings have to be worked on. I think that someone in recovery, this would be a very vulnerable time for them. The possibility of relapse or something, that this would be one of those times that maybe would trigger them. Maybe they're not used to having to navigate those emotions.
It's too much. Yeah.
Yeah, because depending on how long they've been in recovery and how much their brain has recovered and they're feeling those feelings, it might be the first time that they've had to feel them, and they're not they're not good. The feelings aren't good. And do they have a effective way of coping with them? Do they have a support system? So having a community, whether it's family, not everyone has family, their blood family. You hear a lot of people talk about having the family that they've created for themselves. So do they have someone that they can lean on? That's very important to me, creating a community, because not everybody has it. And it's very hard to trust. So sometimes you have to look outside your nuclear family to find someone that doesn't judge you, that doesn't want to tell you what you need to do, and just have more of a
Right.
listening ear to help you through those things. So I found that very, very interesting. It kind of opened my eyes and my heart a little bit and made me kind of come outside myself a little bit. I have, as I've talked about, a son that's in recovery, and he has been for almost 8 years. But the loss of my mother was hard on him too. And I know that there's a difference in the grieving of men and women. And maybe I didn't take that into consideration when I lost my mom, because he was close with her. And in her will, she left a very specific message to him. So I got to watch out for him too, especially since he's in recovery. So that brings me to a conversation that my husband brought up, and he was pretty passionate about it today, about men and women and the way that they process and the way that they grieve. So research and clinical observation show that men and women experience, express, and process grief very differently. Grief is very deeply individual, and it's shaped by personality, culture, and circumstances. Distinct patterns frequently emerge along gender lines due to a combination of socialization, psychological coping styles, and physiological factors. Psychologists often categorize grieving styles into two models. The first one is called instrumental grieving, which is frequently observed in men. The focus of this is action-oriented, cognitive, and problem-solving. They express grief internally or channeled into physical tasks, work, projects, or protecting their loved ones. Communication style, they are frequently socialized to suppress their vulnerabilities, process emotions privately rather than talking through them, sometimes misread by others as lack of caring or emotional detachment. And then the intuitive grieving, which is observed in women. The focus is affective, emotional, and expressive. Affective meaning it arises from or influences from feelings of emotion or mood. They express grief intensely through feelings, crying, or a deep emotional sharing. Communication, generally socialized to seek connection and verbalize their pain. Processing the loss by talking about it with friends, family, or support groups. So, Just a little side note, I read this. I had the biggest aha moment a number of years ago. I was married to my first husband, the father of my children, and we had a daughter, and we lost that daughter. And it devastated me. I'm sure it devastated him, but he was so stoic and so everything that was just explained in what I read was what that man was. He was protective, didn't talk about it, went to work, projects, everything that I just read as I was reading it opened up everything to me. It gave me chills a little bit because this is so dead on. Society historically conditions men to be providers and protectors, which can create immense pressure to stay strong, stoic, and in control during a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Control. Women are encouraged to be caretakers of the emotional environment, making it more socially acceptable for them to display sadness openly, seek comfort, and lean on the community networks. Men rely on distractions, physical activities, or solitary problem solving to regulate the overwhelming emotions before they are ready to talk about them. Women are more likely to seek out emotional processing through dialogue, journaling, or therapeutic spaces. When families or couples or family members grieve differently using different styles, it can lead to unintentional friction. The female griever might interpret the male griever's silence or return to work as coldness or lack of grief. Hit the nail on the head with that one. That's what I thought he was. That he went back to work, didn't talk about it. So I, in my personal situation, felt like, did you forget about our daughter? She's gone and forgotten about, and we moved her things out of the house, and you didn't care about her. She's like, move on to the next thing. Let's have dinner. And
Right.
where my life shut down, and I couldn't again get out of bed.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
couldn't
Yeah.
function. So uh, this is 100% dead on. Where the male griever might feel overwhelmed or criticized by the female griever's constant need to talk about the loss or display heavy emotion. Recognizing different does not mean deficient is vital. Understanding that a partner or family member is simply processing their pain through a different lens allows space for mutual support, even when coping methods look differently. That made me kind of start thinking about the old myth that says women speak 20,000 words to the men's 7,000. They say that that myth has been debunked by studies, and the average men and women both speak about 12 to 16,000 words per day in the adolescents, early adult, and older adults. Early middle age, early and middle age, women speak about 3,000 words per day more than men due to child rearing. So, all of that to say, I guess we're all a little bit different and there's no one way
And
to grieve.
I'd kind of heard
That,
all of this before, like, I wish I'd known all of this years ago because, like I say, we as a couple, we grieved Evan very differently. Adam, we got back from identifying his body on Sunday, and Adam was back at work on Monday. And I couldn't understand how he could go back to work, and he said, "Somebody's gotta keep the lights on." Somebody's
yeah,
gotta keep it going, and it was pretty obvious at that
yeah,
point that it was not going to be me. S
yeah. I mean, that was totally eye opening for me. I mean, that was a lot of years ago. I was much younger, but just reading that today I think I'm gonna have to apologize to him when I see him the next time, but just to know that and be cognizant of it. Those things are things that my husband says all the time, not necessarily about grief, but about communication styles and about how different we are in communication styles. So, something to be cognizant of. And sometimes you don't want to hear it from the person that's
Right, right,
presenting it. So,
absolutely.
yes, I think that myself, I'm coming away from today's podcast, our chat, a little lighter. I feel a little lighter. I think each week that we come together, I definitely learn something. I definitely know without a doubt that this is what we're supposed to be doing. And I know that we're going to reach a lot of people.
I mean, life has some funny moments. I mean, let's be honest. There's there's a lot of hidden joy there in moments that shouldn't have any joy, and sometimes you just get a little wink from God or the universe or your loved one that's passed or something that keeps you going. And I
think
think if you're aware of those moments and you look for those moments, I think it does help so much to know that there's some joy to be had. Not everything can be awful.
I think not everything can be awful. I remember each week as I'm going through and researching or soul searching, it brings old stories to my mind. And sometimes you have to laugh
Yeah,
at yourself. And um, when we set out to do this, the promise that I made to myself, to my son, to everybody was that we would keep this real. And in keeping it real, sometimes we have to tell on
right.
ourselves. And I think that we've we've talked a lot today, and I think that we could do another episode of this and talk about how we've kind of coped with different things, whether it's good, bad, healthy, unhealthy, because I am not here to pretend that I've always done things right. I'm not here to talk to any of our friends in the comments and try to pretend that I haven't made mistakes. I'm willing to share those mistakes, hopefully to show that I'm as human as anyone else and keep anyone listening from maybe making those mistakes. So,
Looking forward to doing that because I've
yeah,
really got some doozies on things that I've done, and I look forward to
you definitely got one story that I want to
I've got
hear.
one
So,
story. There's a lot of good ones, yeah.
the, I want to hear your psychic story.
Whenever I say that I became obsessed with psychics, which I don't know that that's really totally unusual. I think a lot of people probably go through it, or there wouldn't be 5,000 Facebook groups with psychics, waiting to reach out to
I went
on for your
one.
loved one.
I went psychic two times. Don't tell my husband. One, I went on purpose, and she gave me a reading about my son. One, I went with a group of people at work, and I didn't have any part of it. I was just there with the people from work, and she came over to me and she said, "There is somebody here that wants me to talk to you." That it was a medium, and she said, "This person has been trying to get to you since you walked in the room." And she said, "It's a very little person and she can't breathe. She keeps pulling at her neck. She can't breathe." And she said, "There's a there's a man bringing her through." And I'm like, she said, "The name is Albert, the man bringing her through." And I was like, I got chills, and I said, "I don't want to know anymore."
Really?
She'd have said like John or Bob, I'd have been like, "You're full of hooey." But Albert was my grandfather's father's name, so my great grandfather's name, and the little person she was talking about was my grandmother, who was intubated and never supposed to be intubated. She was a DNR, and I almost got banned from the hospital ICU when I was fighting for my grandfather. He wanted it taken out. My grandma wanted it taken out, and they had her restrained to the bed because she was trying to pull it out. And security almost threw me out of the hospital. And she was fighting mad.
I would have had to ask for more details on that. I would have wanted to.
I was scared. Like when they came through with that Albert name, I
Right.
was like,
Totally unsolicited, and she doesn't know you, and
and it was Albert. It wasn't like
right.
John,
Or
like
just an A name. There's an
Joe.
A name in here, do you know of an A? Do you know of an M? Do you know,
And she to me because this person was being so disruptive. And
wow.
I was like, okay. And me and my grandma had a very, very, very close relationship. My grandmother and my children had a close relationship. I probably should have. And now looking back, I wish I would have. And then the other one was 1,000% about my son.
Such an interesting topic, and I think we should continue this topic on a whole podcast by itself because I have
I
some
think
really
so.
great stories. I was
Okay.
completely obsessed for a while, and I would still like to be obsessed, but my husband is not obsessed. So we've agreed to
Not
disagree
sure.
and maybe just talk about the ones I've had, but not he said, "Please," every time he leaves, he's like, "Please don't have a seance in our house."
Hope my husband doesn't make it to the end of this particular. But if you have made it to the end, please like, subscribe, and share this out. Leave us a comment, and we promise to get back to
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much for joining us.